Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really interesting topic. It's fundamentally changing the game for anyone needing serious computing power. We're talking about GPU as a service, or,
Right.
GPUaaS.
Think of it like renting access, basically. Access to these incredibly powerful graphics processing units, GPUs, but over the cloud. It's about getting the muscle for the really heavy lifting.
Like AI model training.
Exactly.
Hmm.
AI training, complex simulations, even high-end cloud gaming, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you do it without having to, buy and maintain these massive, expensive server racks yourself.
Okay. And we're basing this dive on an article, right? One that looks specifically at the market trends, the opportunities for GPUaaS.
That's our source material.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission really is to unpack that source for you, give you the shortcut to getting up to speed. We'll look at where the market is now. It's, frankly, wild growth path. What's pushing it?
The hurdles, too, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, the challenges are significant.
Yeah.
And, of course, where it might be headed next.
All right, let's unpack it. So, GPUaaS, at its core, what is it enabling and why is it, so critical now?
Well, it's really revolutionizing access to high-performance computing, HPC. Historically, if you needed to crunch massive data sets or run really sophisticated models, you were looking at huge capital investment, on-premise stuff.
Big servers, lots of maintenance.
Exactly. GPUs just sidesteps that whole barrier.
And the timing seems, well, perfect. Because the demand for this kind of power is just exploding, isn't it?
It really is. We're talking AI, machine learning, sure, but also big data analytics, scientific research, media rendering.
Cloud gaming, too, you mentioned.
Definitely growing fast. All these tasks thrive on doing lots of calculations at once, parallel processing. And that's what GPUs are built for. Completely different from, say, a standard CPU.
Right, CPUs are more like sequential taskmasters.
Precisely. Which brings us to the benefits the source highlights. You get incredible flexibility.
Scale up, scale down as needed.
Instantly. That's huge. And, of course, cost efficiency. It's generally much cheaper than buying all that gear yourself.
So it lets companies, researchers, even smaller dev teams accelerate their big compute jobs.
Dramatically. You get access to world-class power, on demand, without that huge upfront spend or the hassle of managing the physical kit.
Okay, let's get to the numbers. Because the source suggests this is where the story gets really compelling.
Yeah, the figures are quite something. So for 2024, the market valuation is sitting at around USD 3.5 billion, roughly 514.6 million to be precise.
Which is already substantial.
It is. But look at the projection. The forecast jumps to over USD 41 billion, 132.7 million by 2032.
Wow. That's not just growth, that's like a rocket ship in less than a decade.
It's staggering. And the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate, reflects that. It's projected at 36% over that period.
A 36% CAGR. You don't see that kind of number everywhere. That's huge.
Absolutely. And it tells you something fundamental is happening. That rapid growth is directly tied to the sheer explosion of AI-driven applications everywhere. And the underlying need for parallel processing these apps demand. It shows this isn't niche anymore. It's becoming core infrastructure.
Okay, so beyond just more AI, what are the specific drivers the source points to? What's really fueling this?
Well, it is primarily that escalating demand for HPC, across those key areas, AI, big data, gaming, media. But it's the acceleration in AI and deep learning that's really the hungriest consumer. Training these massive models, running inference efficiently, it just eats up GPU power.
And the hardware itself is getting better too, right? The source mentioned advancements like NVIDIA's A100, AMD's MI series.
Yes, and that's crucial. These aren't just minor tweaks. They're big leaps in processing power, memory speed, energy efficiency. Some have specialized cores just for AI tasks.
So better GPUs mean the cloud providers can offer more bang for your buck.
Exactly. More power, more speed for things like huge simulations, ultra-high-res rendering, complex analytics. Makes a cloud option even more attractive.
This really brings us back to that core difference. Why GPUs over CPUs for this kind of heavy lifting in the cloud?
It really boils down to their architecture, like you said. CPUs are great for complex step-by-step tasks, one thing after another, very fast. But GPUs, they have thousands of simpler cores. They can do thousands of calculations simultaneously. Parallelism is their game.
So for anything involving massive amounts of data points or pixels...
GPUs just blow CPUs out of the water in terms of speed and efficiency for those specific kinds of jobs, like matrix math for neural networks or rendering graphics.
And the market share reflects that preference.
Clearly. The source says as of 2024, for these HPC-type cloud workloads, GPUs hold a dominant 60% share. CPUs are around 30%, other stuff maybe 10%.
And it's going up.
Expected to hit 65% by 2025. So yeah, their dominance in this space is only growing. It really cements them as the engine for modern HPC.
It shows you where the R&D money is going, where the demand is.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's look globally. Where's the action concentrated now, and where's the really exciting growth happening?
So in 2024, North America is the biggest player, holds about 40% of the market.
Makes sense. Established tech scene, lots of cloud users, big companies.
Exactly. Mature ecosystem. Europe's next, around 25%, driven by AI and machine learning in sectors like healthcare, automotive, manufacturing.
But the source flags Asia-Pacific as the one to watch for growth.
Absolutely. That's where the highest growth potential is seen. While different sources might have slightly different numbers, the trend is crystal clear. Asia-Pacific's share is set to climb significantly. Some estimates put its CAGR as high as 40%.
40%. What's driving that surge over there?
It's a mix. You've got rapid industrialization, huge tech advancements in places like China, Japan, India, plus massive investments going into AI research and cloud infrastructure, and just booming demand for AI, cloud gaming, big data analytics across the whole region.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about the giants. Who are the big players really dominating this GPUaaS market?
The source identifies the usual suspects, really. Amazon Web Services, AWS, Microsoft, Oracle Systems Corporation. They're the key players right now.
And the market shares reflect that. AWS around 22%, Microsoft 18%, Oracle 15% for 2024.
Roughly, yes, according to the source. So a few major providers hold a pretty big slice of the pie. And their strategies show it. They're pouring money into expanding infrastructure, constantly upgrading their GPU offerings, baking AI capabilities deeper into their platforms.
And are they acquiring smaller players or partnering up?
Strategic partnerships, mergers, acquisitions, standard playbook to enhance services and grab more global presence.
So the competition's tough.
And likely to get tougher, especially with new entrants maybe targeting those really fast-growing regions like Asia-Pacific. Expect more players by 2025.
Right. Now, shifting to opportunities, the source really hammers home that AI and machine learning advancements are the biggest opportunity here.
Without a doubt. GPUs are literally the engine for training and deploying these complex deep learning models. And as the models get bigger, hungrier, well, the need for raw processing power just skyrockets.
And GPUaaS steps right in. It gives companies, researchers, access to that power on tap, removes that huge barrier of needing to buy your own supercomputer, essentially.
It's unlocking potential in so many areas. Take healthcare. The source mentions it specifically.
How are they using it?
Speeding up medical image analysis, accelerating drug discovery simulations, which are incredibly complex, improving predictive health models in real time. Things like genomics analysis, too. Healthcare apparently made up about 12% of the market in 2024, and that's projected to keep growing strongly.
And beyond the serious science, gaming and entertainment must be huge users, too.
Absolutely. Rendering photorealistic graphics, making cloud gaming smooth with low latency, streaming high-fidelity video. All that relies heavily on remote GPU power.
It really enables a whole new level of capability.
Across a really diverse set of fields that need that heavy computational lift.
And another key advantage, maybe the defining feature, is scalability, right?
Scalability is probably the core value proposition. It's what makes GPUaaS so incredibly attractive. It means you can instantly adjust your GPU usage. Need thousands of GPUs for a massive training run? Fine. Need to scale way down afterwards? Also fine.
Pay for what you use.
Exactly. Pure efficiency. No expensive hardware sitting idle. No hitting a wall because your physical capacity is maxed out when demand spikes.
So who benefits most? Startups?
Yeah.
Research labs?
Definitely them. Also, industries with really variable computing needs or businesses with seasonal peaks, like maybe retail analytics during the holidays. The source notes it helped drive adoption in finance, telecom, manufacturing back in 2024.
And things like hybrid cloud make it easier to plug GPUaaS into existing systems.
Yeah, hybrid strategies help integrate it more seamlessly. Scalability really democratizes access to HPC, makes it available to almost anyone.
Okay, so growth, opportunity. But there have to be challenges. The source highlights data security and compliance as the main ones.
That's the big elephant in the room. And it's a critical concern, especially when you're dealing with sensitive data. Moving your data, your processing, onto someone else's servers. It naturally raises security questions.
And these platforms are targets, like any cloud service. Data breaches, cyber attacks are real risks.
Particularly worrying for highly regulated sectors. Think finance, healthcare, government. They have super strict rules about data protection.
Like IPA for healthcare data in the U.S.?
Yep. And things like the Dodd-Frank Act for finance, GDPR in Europe for data privacy. The list goes on.
So providers need really tight security.
Absolutely. Robust frameworks are essential. Strong encryption, both when data is moving and when it's stored, plus tight access controls, multi-factor authentication, the works.
But building and maintaining that level of security and compliance, that adds cost, right?
It certainly can.
Yeah.
And that might slow adoption for smaller businesses or those who aren't as comfortable navigating complex cloud security. It's a barrier.
So providers have a balancing act. Offer power, but prove it's secure and compliant.
They have to nail security and compliance. It's fundamental to building trust, especially in those sensitive industries.
Okay, looking ahead, what does the source suggest is coming next? Future developments.
Well, continued tech advancements, for sure. The source talks about integrating GPUs more tightly with other emerging tech.
Like what?
Things like quantum computing, edge computing. Still early days for some of that, but the potential intersections are there.
Wow. How does that affect GPUaaS providers? What do they need to do?
They need to keep evolving their services to support applications that sit at that intersection. Think about the massive processing needed for truly autonomous driving, or next-level AI research pushing the limits, maybe even some blockchain applications. As those fields mature, GPUaaS needs to be ready.
And the source mentioned a concrete example, Rackspace launching something recently.
Yeah, November 2024, Rackspace Technology launched a specific GPU as a service offering. It gives on-demand access to NVIDIA GPUs, tailored for AI, machine learning, data analytics, scalable resources, no upfront investment needed.
And targeting specific industries.
Exactly those ones we discussed. Healthcare, retail, finance. It shows providers are actively building these specialized services now.
So the future outlook is more growth.
Pretty much. Continued rapid growth seems very likely, driven by hardware innovation, more integration with other advanced tech, and that relentless global demand for HPC.
The capabilities will just keep expanding, making GPUaaS even more essential infrastructure.
Seems that way.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive. We've seen GPUaaS is, well, exploding. Already billions, projected over 40 billion by 2032. Driven primarily by the insatiable demands of AI, machine learning, and tons of other data-heavy applications.
And it offers game-changing benefits, scalability, flexibility, cost efficiency. It fundamentally changes how everyone from researchers to game developers gets the compute power they need.
But we also hit on the critical challenges. Data security is paramount. Navigating complex compliance rules, especially for sensitive sectors, is a major hurdle.
So why does understanding all this matter for you, the listener? Well, because GPUaaS is enabling so many tech shifts happening right now. It's lowering the barrier to high-performance computing. So whether you work in these fields, or you're developing apps, or just curious about the tech shaping our future, knowing how this evolves is pretty key.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, drawing from this discussion. Think about what happens when you make this kind of massive computing power way more affordable and scalable. That's the promise of GPS, right? It fundamentally changes who gets to play at the cutting edge, who gets to build the next big AI, run those huge simulations, create those immersive digital worlds.
What new doors does that democratization of compute power open?
And how will that tension, the need for accessible power versus the critical need for security and managing costs, how will that keep shaping the way forward?
That tension isn't going away. It'll define the market.
Absolutely. Okay, that's it for this deep dive.